One thing before we start this video. All of the patients I've talked about are made up. They represent an average person that I see on call, but they aren't actual cases. But these are very similar to patients that we see all the time when we're on call, and hopefully they're things that we're able to learn a bit from.
So I just woke up and I had a terrible sleep because it's so hot outside at the moment, and also it's the middle of the day and no one should be sleeping at the moment. I'm gonna get some food. Hopefully there's gonna be a really nice sunset outside, which I'm gonna miss, and then head to work.
This is what I'm taking on my night shift with me. I've got my stethoscope, my badge, a pen, a bottle of water, and 2 small meals with a fork. So I'm just heading to my car and then I'll be on the way to the hospital. It's kind of quiet and eerie already, and it's only gonna get quieter. The saddest thing about doing nights is when you leave your house and it's still so dark and you just end up never seeing the sun at all. On this night shift, I was covering the medical wards. So at 5 PM when the doctors go home and the on-call team cover the wards, they see unwell patients and do jobs like taking blood tests and prescribing medication in the evening and overnight. I work from 9 in the evening until 9:30 in the morning across multiple wards. So the night always starts with a handover. A handover is when the day team speak to the night team about everything that's been happening in the hospital. They let them know about unwell patients as well as anything that needs following up. This communication is key in making sure that nothing is missed in the hospital. You make a list of all of the patients that they've discussed and all of the jobs that need doing, and now we're going to start getting on with them. During this night shift, I was also carrying a pager or a bleep. This means that I can be contacted by the nurse on the wards and the other doctors, including the FY1 doctor, who's the new doctor who sometimes calls for advice. This page is also a crash bleep, so if there's any cardiac arrests in the hospital when a patient's heart stops, I would be part of the team that tries to resuscitate them by doing chest compressions, ventilating them, and administering shocks.
Okay, too fast. Everyone, we need to pump at a pace of 100 beats per minute.
Oh, okay. That's hard to keep track. How many is that per hour?
The first patient I saw this evening was a patient that came in with a headache, neck stiffness, and photophobia, which is an abnormal intolerance to light. Now, these symptoms are quite worrying for meningitis. The meninges are the protective membranes that surround your brain and your spinal cord. Meningitis is an inflammation of these membranes due to infection. So this patient had a CT scan of their head, which was normal, and also a lumbar puncture. A lumbar puncture is a procedure where a thin needle is inserted between the bones in your lower spine. The reason we do it is to take a sample of fluid from your spinal cord. This is called cerebrospinal fluid. When we analyse this fluid, it can give us lots of different things, including to tell us whether there's an infection, whether that's a bacterial or a viral infection, and also because it's linked to the head, it can give us a sign if there's been any bleeding in the brain. We did this, there was actually a suggestion that may have had a bleed in her head, so she actually was discussed with the neurosurgical doctors and ended up having a CT angiogram. So this evening I had to review the report of the CT angiogram and then talk to the neurosurgeons about this patient's further management. You work with a wide variety of different level of doctor and also different colleagues in the hospital. You've got the FY1 doctors, who are the new doctors that have just started out. You've got the SHO doctors, or the senior house officers, and they're a range of doctors who've been working for a few years. You've got the registrars, who are often the most experienced doctors in hospital overnight, who've been working for several years. And you've also got colleagues such as ANPs, which are advanced nurse practitioners, clinical support, and the staff nurses on the wards. I've also been all over the place doing things like bloods and cannulas. Cannula is when we get intravenous access. We can give a patient antibiotics and fluids through a drip. The next patient I saw tonight was a patient who had a chest infection and she had a pneumonia, and because of the pneumonia she actually had a pleural effusion. The pleura is the lining of the lung, and an effusion is where there's a build-up of fluid there. So she had a pleural effusion, it was making her really breathless, and I had to see her because her blood pressure was low. So I did my A2E assessment, which is what you have to do when you see an unwell patient. I gave her antibiotics and also fluids, and I'm going to go back to see her shortly, and hopefully her blood pressure's been picked up. There's always this lull around 3 or 4 o'clock where you start getting really tired and you've just got to power through it basically. My fuel for the evening is coffee and plenty of water because it's really easy to get dehydrated on a night shift. Not a lot of people know this, but a lot of the job of a doctor involves typing. Anything you do in the hospital, seeing relatives, talking to patients, has to be documented, both to ensure there's continuity of care so other people in the hospital know what's happening in that patient's care, and also so that we can audit and look back on what's happened. So it's really important medico-legally that you document accurately. Between seeing unwell patients on a night shift, the junior doctor covering the wards can expect to do lots of small tasks. These include prescribing medication such as warfarin, which is a blood thinner that requires really close monitoring, prescribing fluids for patients that are dehydrated or that can't eat or drink, and also answering general inquiries. This is one of the hardest things when you first start as a new doctor because lots of more experienced colleagues, such as nurses, are asking you questions that you just don't know. This is when you have to refer to your senior colleagues, and it just takes time to learn these things. So it's the daytime now, and I'm surprisingly awake considering it's 9 in the morning. It's time to go to the next handover. So it's 9:30 in the morning and I've finally finished the night shift. We had a morning handover, which is similar to yesterday's evening handover, where we tell the day team about all of the things that happened overnight, the unwell patients, the things they need to follow up, all of that sort of thing. And once we've done that and handed over our bleeps, then we can go home. And I'm looking forward to having a good sleep, and then I'm back on tonight. So I'll be doing the same thing all over again. When I get home from night, and I never know what to do about food because it's kind of morning, so I'm hungry for breakfast, right? But it's the end of the day, so I feel like I should be eating dinner. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get updates about future videos. Stay safe, and I'll catch you soon.